What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Legends of Tomorrow, Season 4, Episode 3, Dancing Queen. If I don't seem too excited about this episode, it's only because I already recorded the review for it, and, paused it like I normally do to get ready for the next episode, and then the iPad, or not iPad, tablet decided to glitch. And because of that glitch, it means that cut off the recording. I know some of you are thinking, well, why don't you just keep it and then edit it on the other two? It's because I don't do any of that. I can't. I'm not good at that. I could probably learn, but I'm also lazy, and, well, that's about all you need to know. Anyways, though, but yeah, so this one, just try to remember most of what I said. But this was a good episode. It was enjoyable. It was fun, and that's pretty much Legends in a nutshell. Is just a lot of fun moments. But this one in particular, enjoyed getting to go back to jolly old England, and really really get into the English culture. But yeah, a lot of fun moments with it. Ray going to the punk rock band. I mean, that it was funny getting to see him trying to fit in and them kind of calling him out on a lot of it. Um, the only parts that I really had issue with, first of all, Ray's kind of turn at the end. Not really like being evil, but he kind of turns against the team's wishes and tries to help out this shapeshifter. And ultimately, she shapeshifts into him and gets his suit. But I don't know, it just seemed a little bit too much for Ray. Like I could understand if maybe he started believing like, oh yeah, she's just a good person. We can help her out. But when the team makes the decision and he decides, no, I'm gonna go against what the team wants, it seemed a little too forced for me. Especially because I mean he already has in the case of Nora Dark. He let her go without asking the team. So I don't know. It just seemed like I didn't really like that. I felt like it was a little over the top as far as Ray is concerned, and also the stuff with Nate and Gary. I'm just gonna be perfectly honest. I'm not a big fan of Gary. I think he's funny whenever he's getting made fun of, but when he's not getting made fun of, he's just not funny. They try to make him funny. They try to do the awkward comedy with him, but it just doesn't really work. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Gary. So the fact that now he and Nate have teamed up, and I don't know if they're gonna constantly be going through their own adventure, or if this was just a one time thing. I will say though, for Nate's case, I wasn't big on him leaving the team and doing his own thing. Um, because honestly, my thought was, oh, he's getting out of the Wave Rider because he's tired of being in the field for a bit. He wants to take a break from that. And then he immediately goes out in the field with Gary and tries to stop this magical whatever it is. Which I did find a little bit funny that the saber-toothed tiger was not the blip. It was actually the Little Shop of Horrors plant, pretty much, that was the blip. I like that. Um, but I was concerned because I'm like, wait a minute, why is he going out in the field then if he doesn't want to be on the field with the team? I'm confused. And then at the end of the episode, he does tell Sarah, it's because he sees a Maya everywhere. And then, of course, the shapeshifter turns into a Maya at the end of the episode, so she realizes it's a good idea that he's not on the ship right now. Um, I will say I felt a little bit cheated for that. Like, it feels like they're going to do something where, guys, look, we can get a Maya's actress back, but she's going to be a different character now. I don't know. It seemed a little bit weird that Constantine just happened to stop her shapeshifting right then. But for the most part, like I did enjoy. Sorry, I had to get my phone out of the way. I did enjoy this episode. I enjoyed getting to find out more about Constantine. The scene with him and his dad at the bar was a lot of fun. He tries to kick him in the balls to make sure he's not born, but then he can't because then the paradox would happen. And I like that they covered that, because I was thinking to myself, wait, is he really just about to erase himself from existence? And then he doesn't. And then Zari brings it up. It's like, no, I mean, if you stop your dad from giving birth to you, then you would not be able to give birth to yourself. Like, you wouldn't have been able to come back in time to stop this from happening if he never gave birth. Like, I like the fact that they did explain that. Because that's something that I feel like Legends in the past would have just done. They would have just had him kick him in the balls, and then like he slowly fades away or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with all the time travel stuff half the time, but it was a funny scene, and honestly, everything with Constantine in this episode gave him more depth as a character, which is a good thing because so far he's just kind of been there. He's kind of been the prick on the team that doesn't want to be a part of the team, and he's just sort of there making jokes with people. Him and Mick not getting along, not a big fan of that. Honestly, it just feels like unnecessary tension. Um, Although I kind of wonder if Mick notices the fact that he's there for a different reason than what he's letting on to. Because I feel like he's joined the team to help get away from whatever's, chased him in that apartment. And I think it's also bringing danger to the Legends, and I think Mick might have an idea of that, which might be why he doesn't like him as much. Possibly, I don't know for sure. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, everything else was just sort of standard Legend stuff. A lot of fun, funny stuff. I will. The one thing that just popped in my mind that I'm not really sure what they're going for. It feels like Sarah so far this season has been a little bit more cheesy. Not that she hasn't had her cheesy moments in the past, but the what's the word I'm looking for? The catchphrases, the sayings, the "Hey team, let's go get the." I don't even remember the jokes that she's made now because it's been a little bit. Um, but yeah, like she's gotten a little bit more cheesy with her jokes, and not just like the writing. Like they're even acknowledging her jokes are cheesy. I'm just like, what's going? Is it because she's kind of settling down with Ava? Like that's kind of helping her unleash this side of her that she wasn't showing before. I don't know. It popped in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's something to talk about because I don't know what it means. But anyways, with all that being said, that's about it for this episode. Thank goodness I managed to get through this with too much of an issue. I hope I didn't miss anything big. I'm pretty sure I didn't. But yep, we'll see what happens next. So I'll see you at the next episode in just a second. Now, episode 4, Wet Hot American Bummer. Bummer. Not the best title. Legends, not the best title. This episode was okay. The beginning of it definitely didn't have my attention. It wasn't till near the end that I actually started to care a bit more. The main things is just I don't know. I've seen these camp cliches done so many times, with the kids, they hate the counselors, and you got the awkward counselor trying to fit in. You got the counselor that's a hard ass that just doesn't wants everybody to follow the rules, doesn't want anybody to have fun. And I don't know, it's just I've seen it all done before, and they didn't really do anything new with it. The only thing that saved it for me though is we did get to see kind of I guess a bit more development on these characters for that. Because we do see, Ava, of course, is the one that comes in. Sarah's trying to, have fun with the kids, make them all like her and stuff. And Ava just comes in. She's like, all right, everybody, get to bed. That's it. Go sleep. So, that old cliche. But they actually do have a pretty good reason for it, which is what kind of saves it. I mean, they didn't really do anything different with the cliche, but there's a good reason. Because Ava never had a childhood because she, is technically just I forget, is it a clone? I don't really remember exactly what she is considered. Um, but yeah, she never had a childhood. So it kind of makes sense that she wouldn't understand all of the fun of camp and all of that. Um, and then with Ray and John, at first it seems like you got Ray, who's the guy who's all like, yeah, camp is fun. Let's go have fun, guys. And John's the one off to the side that, like, camp is stupid. And so you feel like, the campers would kind of graduate, gravitate closer to John just because, like, oh, he's the cool counselor. Ray's just a dork. Um, but ultimately, they do have their moment together in the woods where Ray's all excited and stuff, and John's telling him to shut up, which was kind of funny. But then John, like, straight up just tells him, like, you don't belong out here. You're not the type that can go monster hunting. And I like that scene. It showed a bit more depth to Constantine's character, but also like Ray gets a chance to be like, look, this is I know what I'm doing. I can handle myself. And so ultimately the two of them have to work together to save these kids. And then John practically sacrifices himself to save one kid who, I guess, he had too much of his life energy sucked away. So I guess he gave him some of his own life energy to bring him back to life. And it was more of a Ray Palmer moment from John, whereas Ray got a chance to be a part of the incantations that brought these kids' life forces back to them. So I really like how they handled that. They both had a chance to do a bit of a role reversal at the end. Um, and then Sarah and Ava as kids, didn't do anything really special with that. I like the plan that they had to get Ava to go to the kitchen so she could get the cayenne pepper. And then also kind of like the little, it wasn't much of a plot twist, but it was kind of funny because they see the old woman that sort of runs the camp. She shows up when Ava and Sarah are out in the woods, like following the string, and she cuts it. She's like, "I wonder what sort of punishment I should cook up for you," and I'm just like, "Oh, she's the witch," and then they like they just beat her down, and then they find out shortly after that it shouldn't be a woman, it should be a handsome young man, and that's when the other counselor that Ray was bonding with comes out of the woods. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there, but what makes it funny is that you think back to what just happened. They straight up kicked that old woman in the face for no good reason. Because they never even addressed the old woman after that. She's just gone. So I kind of thought it was hilarious that that happened, and then they never talked about it again. They just beat up that old woman. Oh man, that was funny. Um, Aside from that, the stuff on the ship also very similar. Beginning didn't really like it because Zari she tells Gideon just tell her to knock herself out, and then it looks like the shapeshifter, what's her name, Charlie, I think. Charlie, it looks like, knocks herself out. And so then Zari's like, oh, I didn't mean, now I feel bad. She goes in, opens up the shield. I'm like, are you stupid? And then, of course, Charlie, beats her up, locks her in the cage, and then tries to escape. Thankfully, though, they did lock down all of the doors, so she couldn't get out. And then Rory is also on the ship, so he takes her back to her cage. But then everything after that I really liked because she actually bonds with Rory, which makes sense because, she was locked in a cage for so long, a magical cage, and Rory, of course, has been locked in prison for several years before. So I don't know. I like the bond that they formed. I think it fits their characters. I think it works for both of them, and ultimately by the end she does decide to sort of join up and help out a bit, because not because she wants to, but just because she doesn't want to be in the cage. So it's not like she really likes the team, and I feel like there's probably going to be some bickering at first, which hopefully doesn't last too long, because I swear I've seen this done so many times where new person joins the team, bicker, and then they all get along. I hope they do something new with this. But it really does feel like she's doing it for her own benefit because she even tells Sarah at the end of the episode, why am I so tired? I slept pretty well, or at least I thought I did. I don't know. Um, but she tells Sarah at the end, she's like, one condition, you never put me in that cage again. So, I'm curious to see what they've got in store for this shapeshifter. But yeah, I mean, overall, pretty solid episode considering I didn't like the first, probably third to a half part of it. I didn't really like it as much. They did do a lot of cliche stuff that I've seen before. I saw a lot of what they were doing. And I'm just like, ugh, I'm not a fan of this stuff. And then somewhere along the way, it just got better. And by the end of the episode, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, overall, pretty good episode. So now on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 5, Tagumo attacks. Um, Another good episode. Nothing, honestly, for this show, there's nothing ever really too incredible. Like, I can't think of any episode that's like blown me out of the water, if I'm being perfectly honest. But this was a good one, especially because the last two I feel like were good, but also had problems. This one I really liked. I first, everything to do with Nate and his family. I am a little sad that his dad's turning out to be kind of, I don't know. This whole Project Haiti thing just sounds like a bad guy thing, so I don't know who he's talking to, like what. I'm guessing it's a branch of government he's talking to, and they're going to come up with some sort of thing to, like, control the magical creatures or whatever. So yeah, probably have to deal with that at some point. But yeah, everything to do with his family was pretty fun though. Like it was funny getting to see him deal with all of that and then sneaking away to go help Gary. Honestly, this new girl and Gary, not a bad combination. I kind of like the fact that she was just like, oh yeah, I know all about these creatures. I've read all about them. Like just something about that fact. It's very coincidental, but kind of makes me laugh. Um, so I like that little section. Everything to do with you know the rest of the story too, like with Ray John and Nora. Like Ray does find her. Great scene when he first sees her too, just like light shining from behind her and the music plays. He's like, I've definitely had a dream about this before, maybe more than one. It's just perfect. Um, but yeah, really like how he goes and finds her, manages to convince her to help with John, and I like the conversations between her and John as well, talking about her using her magic, how it can't just be a one time thing that she does for Ray. Like, this has got to be something she chooses to do for herself. And ultimately, she does choose that, and then she decides at the end she doesn't want to just run. She wants to repent for everything her dad did. And so she turns herself into the Time Bureau. So I found that interesting, and it was it wasn't like a sad scene. Like, I wasn't feeling emotional or anything about it, but it was a somber scene, and they played it really well, I thought. Um, so yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens with Nora from here on out. And then, of course, everything to do with the magical creature for this episode, this book, apparently. Yeah, I liked how they set it up with this director who had this idea, and he wrote it in the book, and then it came to life. Um, and it's just based on what he saw. And, they did deal with a little bit of, again, like I've talked about before in this season, they went back to the Salem witch trials, and it felt like they wanted to change what happened, but they just did it for sake of, oh, these times were awful, what happened was terrible, so we're going to change it, and didn't talk about the repercussions or anything like that. With this, they actually do address, this director was at the site of the Hiroshima bombing, and they don't necessarily go into, because obviously it was an important change in the tide of World War II, and so they didn't really talk about whether it was good or bad, but they did address the other side, because obviously, as we see it from the side of, well, the good guys won the war, the Nazis lost, and that's kind of what gets told in history. But there were innocent people caught in the crossfire too, and this is a guy who was an innocent person, and that's what he had to deal with. So I like how they handled it. They didn't really, I was worried they were going to paint it as like, oh, we're such monsters for dropping the bomb. Like, I don't think that would have been a good place to go with it, but they do address the fact that innocent people do get caught in the crossfire of war, and this guy just happened to be a product of it. And then he drew this based out of kind of his own sorrow of what he felt during that time, and that's what brought it to life. And then, of course, the fact that Mick ends up being because he writes stories, and he ends up being the author that writes a new ending to the story, and the ending was just perfect. Just everything with that scene was exactly like I had imagined it. Like, as soon as the sword comes in, and then they showed the woman, and of course the three breasts, I'm like, oh my god, this is Mick Rory. This is a Mick Rory story, a Rory story, a Mick story. Whew, that was bad. But yeah, then she vanquishes the monster, and then she like takes her hair tie out and walks over to him. I'm like, oh, I know how he imagined this ends. And sure enough, they read it, and it's like they make love in the ruined city. I'm like, yep, sounds about right. But I don't know. It was kind of a heartfelt scene too, though, for Mick. Like, he got a chance to get over. Like, obviously he's a funny character, and he's a goofy character, and clearly this is something that fits that personality. But he also has those moments too where he's kind of down to earth, and he's talking to this director, um, and just kind of has a moment with him to talk about, like, not being afraid of what he's created, which is something he was dealing with. He was afraid to admit that he was creating things because of what it represented to him, but he managed to overcome that and won the day because of it. And then, of course, makes a little reference to, big lizards, the king lizard. That's that's where it's at. And then, of course, the guy referencing, the King of Monsters, Godzilla. So, I like how they ended all of this. And it was just a fun episode. It's probably the best episode in a bit, because I feel like this season has been kind of, it's been fun to watch. Like, that's what Legends is. It's just a fun show. You don't have to think about it too hard. But there have been some issues where I feel like the comedy hasn't worked as well in some parts. I feel like some of the stories that they're going through, the story beats, it feels like we've done it before. But this was one that I felt like I liked it. I feel like it was probably the best probably the best this season, I would say. I would think. But that's just my opinion. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts? We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Future Legends of Tomorrow reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.